My name's Helen Greenfield. I'm a Director at Family Law and Partnership, where I've worked since 2006. I do all aspects of family law, so divorce, children, cohabitation, but I've got a main focus on domestic abuse. So domestic abuse comes up in many of my cases. As my practice has developed, I've decided that that was one of the most fulfilling areas of law because it felt like the area in which I could help people the most and offer the most assistance to get them out the other side. The COVID pandemic has definitely affected the prevalence of domestic abuse. I think it increases the tension in houses and also gives victims less ability to escape. They haven't got the sort of checks that they would have had, say, at the school gates or at work that they would when they're mingling with other people. That's disappeared, so I think they're stuck in their homes, and most of us think of our homes as a safe haven, and it's been quite clear that it's not for many people. Domestic abuse is a pattern or an incident of controlling, coercive, threatening, or even violent behaviour. It's often perpetrated by a partner or an ex-partner. It can be anyone that suffers from it, so it doesn't matter which gender you are, sexuality, religion, age, it affects everyone. Family law is just one of the ways that victims of domestic abuse can get assistance. We work through the civil courts, the family courts. There are a number of injunctions that we can get for victims, one of which is a non-molestation order, which provides protection for you or your child from threatening or risk of harm. You can get orders that say things like they cannot text or email you, or even prevent them coming in a certain area or to your house. The other one, which is a bit more stringent, is an occupation order, and that is very much ruling on whether the perpetrator can actually remain in the family home or come within a certain distance of the family home. When people approach me and it is clear that there has been some element of domestic abuse in their relationship, I will often point them to third-party organisations who are brilliantly helpful. So the National Domestic Abuse Helpline or Women's Aid are on the ground and can point you to help such as refuges or even taking you through the courts themselves. Also, the top tip I give anyone if they're suffering from it is just to tell people, because once you've started that cycle of letting other people know that you're in this situation, then that's when the help can start entering. Obviously, if it's an emergency, you want to start calling the police. They've got a system called the silent service, which means you can ring 999, and even if you don't feel safe enough to speak, you can press 55, just make a noise, and then you're guaranteed a call out even if you haven't even spoken. Practical tips I'd give someone who is suffering from domestic abuse would be to keep a record of the abuse. So you've got a history if you ever come to making a statement in due course as a reminder. It's also good to report any injuries to your GP, so they've got a record of it. Also, the big thing is just to tell someone else, because then they also they've got the information there. Maybe even keep a bag of essentials as an emergency so you can leave quickly. But as I say, it's really just flagging that it's happening so people are aware and can assist if needed. This area of law does overlap with criminal law. The offence of coercive control was made into law in December 2015, so it's now recognised that a sustained sort of pattern of abuse is as bad as a one-off physical incident. So we often work with criminal lawyers if needed, if people think that's the way they want to go. It's a different system. You're in the criminal courts, not the civil courts, but it's another option now for victims. It is now recognised that children do suffer enormously from domestic abuse, whether they are direct victims or they see their parents being victims or parenting capabilities of their parents suffer because of domestic abuse. Research tells us that they can suffer anger or guilt or just simply be frightened because of domestic abuse. The Domestic Abuse Bill that was given royal assent in April 2021 recognises this formally. Even if children are very young, they are put at risk of harm because of domestic abuse. There is also a practice direction that the courts have to use when there are any cases that involve domestic abuse. So when making contact orders, they have to think very carefully about whether the child's well-being is being looked after and they are not being put at risk of harm because of any contact they may be given with one of their parents. A contact order is an order that the court would make if the parent can't determine themselves how to arrange the child's time between them. So often a parent will make an application to court to ask the court to make that decision for them, and if there is any domestic abuse involved, the court have to also take that into account when weighing up the time that the child should spend with their other parent. The most rewarding aspect of my job is seeing people come out the other side. Often when they present at the beginning, they're frightened, they don't know what's going to happen, they're very worried about having to relive things that they've lived through for however many months, and they don't want to have to go over it again in writing a statement or talking about it with anyone else. But seeing them build their confidence and restarting their lives after they've been through the process, however that is done, is really rewarding.